I swear, watching Rob Pelinka attempt to run the Los Angeles Lakers this offseason is basically equivalent to, I don't know, going on a safari to do some bird watching. It has been, if you will, painful. The damn bird just never showed up. That is exactly what has happened with Rob Pelinka and the Los Angeles Lakers to this point. First, they didn't get their coach that they wanted. Second, they didn't get their top two players that they were actually after. Now, personally, I think the player they should have been going after all along, thankfully for Rob Pelinka and the Los Angeles Lakers brass, is actually still available. Look, I am recording this on Tuesday night at 4:35. So as of this time of this recording, DeMar DeRozan is still available. Rob Pelinka, you should do everything that you can possibly do to deal with that first apron and second apron of the NBA salary cap. Because at this point, the Los Angeles Lakers are going to be paying a huge tax fee anyways for this roster. So why not take a shot at actually getting DeMar DeRozan? DeMar DeRozan is probably the last person available in the association at this point that a LeBron James would actually be willing to take a bit of a shave on his salary to actually make it happen. Look, I'm not saying he's going to give away $20 million off of his salary, but certainly I'm willing to bet that LeBron would do it to bring in DeMar DeRozan, who, quite frankly, if you were to compare DeMar DeRozan's stats and Paul George's stats and Klay Thompson's stats, you would probably wonder, why wasn't DeMar DeRozan the number one player sought after by all of these teams during the early days of this NBA free agency? DeRozan, who averaged over 24 points a game. Now, it's not just the averaging of points a game that I want to point out. Now, look, DeRozan is not a three-point shooter like Klay Thompson or Paul George for that matter. DeRozan is sort of the king, if you will, of the mid-range jumper. Love watching DeMar DeRozan play basketball, and I certainly think a DeRozan fit with the Los Angeles Lakers and this particular roster actually makes way more sense than a Paul George or a Klay Thompson does, especially after the Lakers went out and drafted Dalton Knecht. Look, at the end of the day, Rob Pelinka has the opportunity to actually redeem himself if he's able to figure out how to bring DeMar DeRozan in. I am not even going to attempt to explain this NBA salary cap to you. There's apron 1 and there's apron 2. I sat through about an hour of explanation videos done by some of the folks over at ESPN, some people you've never heard of before, and I have to say, while I consider myself to be a relatively smart guy, this whole apron 1 and apron 2 thing is certainly confusing, especially when you consider that if the Los Angeles Lakers are going to be able to pull off a DeMar DeRozan deal, it's going to be because they figure out how to actually trade a couple other salaries away. Now, you might ask yourself, who would they trade away to actually make this happen? And everybody always goes straight back to D'Angelo Russell. D'Angelo Russell, who is making over $18 million a year. But look, there are still some other parts of this Los Angeles Lakers roster that they could move off of the roster to actually free up a mid-level exception for DeMar DeRozan. I mean, Jared Vanderbilt comes to mind, as does Gabe Vincent. The Los Angeles Lakers basically got nothing out of both of those players. At least with D'Lo, 3 out of 5 games he actually shows up for him. Look, D'Lo is also very entertaining to watch and is certainly a crowd favorite. I'm willing to bet, though, if they do make a move on DeMar DeRozan, it will include D'Lo being somehow shipped out of town to where? Nobody knows at this point. In terms of DeRozan, on his side of the fence, look, not even the Detroit Pistons made him an offer. Look at how much money the Detroit Pistons actually gave to Tobias Harris over me. It is insane how much money the Detroit Pistons actually gave to Tobias Harris over me. And yet, DeMar DeRozan is clearly the better basketball player between Tobias Harris and DeRozan. So DeRozan, who would love to get himself another 3-year deal, is most likely going to have to settle for a 1-year deal with the hopes of next offseason being able to secure a significantly larger deal and a larger bag of cash. That is where we are at, North America, at this point. I want to know what you think. Do you think DeMar DeRozan will end up with the Los Angeles Lakers? If he doesn't end up with the Lakers, it will most likely be the Miami Heat, the Golden State Warriors, who are currently fixated on Lauri Markkanen, or the Los Angeles Clippers, which is where all really great basketball players go to receive some pretty big contracts and ultimately do nothing with the rest of their careers. If DeRozan actually wants to have a legitimate shot at winning a ring, the Los Angeles Lakers are clearly the best fit. If the Los Angeles Lakers don't want to squander LeBron James's last year or 2 or 3 in the association, they should do everything in their power to go out and grab DeMar DeRozan. All right, that is it for today's Underrated. As always, I am Dave DeBaugh, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing day. To the always dramatic drum beats we go.
You've been listening to the Underrated Podcast with Dave DeBaugh, presented by Underrated.media. See you next time.